The verse of the day is Colossians 3:12 through 13. And it says, "Since God chose you to be the holy people he loves, you must clothe yourselves with tender-hearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Make allowance for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offends you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others." So yesterday we talked about how we need to put on our new nature. And in order to do that, we have to get to know the one who created this new nature to then become more like this new nature. And today's verse highlights another layer of that, because our new nature is the fruit of what today's verse talks about when it says, have a tender-hearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. All of those things are birthed from putting on your new nature and from the Holy Spirit and walking with God. And I think it's important to note that earlier in this chapter, is it Paul who wrote this? Who wrote Paul? Paul wrote everything. Paul, in verse 5 and 8, highlights what our sinful nature is. So he says, "Put to death the sinful nature, the earthly things lurking within you, sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires. Don't be greedy." And then verse 8 says, "It's time to get rid of anger and rage, malicious behavior, slander, and dirty language." So he's highlighting what our sinful nature will birth and what comes when we follow our own desires, which I think is so funny. Like, and I've said this before, but it's just like, I think the whole world can agree that those things aren't great. And I think the whole world can agree that today's verse is a good thing to have. It's good to have tender-hearted mercy, kindness, humility. It's good to make allowance for each other's faults. All of that is laced with love, which if everyone tried to walk that out, our world would look a lot more like love. So Paul talks about what our sinful nature will do. Today we're highlighting what our new nature will do. I like how it says, "Since God chose you to be the holy people he loves." Since God chose you. I think we have to remember too that we have to choose him back. And sometimes people ask, well, why did God even put that tree in the Garden of Eden if he knew that sin would come into the world? And the answer is choice. He gave us free will. He gave us an option to choose, because if we didn't have a choice, that wouldn't be real love. That would be forced love. So we have a choice to choose love, because that's real love. I just love that it highlights that since God chose you to be the holy people he loves, we must then walk out having tender-hearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, making allowance for each other's faults, and forgiving anyone who offends us, because God forgave us. There's a verse in the Bible where it talks about if you don't forgive your neighbor, God can't forgive you, because you're standing in unforgiveness, and God can't forgive what you choose to hold on to. And so we have to continue to forgive every time we're hurt. In the Bible, it says forgive 70 times 7 times. That's a lot of times, because every day we get hurt. Every day people fall short and disappoint us. Every day we have to stay out of offense and choose to love and to see people the way God does. And if you think about it, if you are withholding love from people and standing in unforgiveness, and you're trying to accept forgiveness from God and walk with him, that's you choosing to keep your sinful nature while also putting on your new nature, but you can't do both. You have to choose one or the other. And if you stand in unforgiveness and you hold grudges and you keep count of the wrongs people do to you, you can't simultaneously tap into the Spirit of God that forgives those very things. So you're standing in unforgiveness and choosing your sinful nature over your new nature. The good news, though, if you practice the verse we talked about yesterday and learn to get to know our Creator, which will then help you become more like him, because you're going to become more like him and get to know him, you're going to be receiving more of God's unconditional love, which is going to change your heart, and then you're going to have more love to give. So when it comes to forgiving the people in our lives and making an allowance for people's mistakes and practicing tender-hearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, all of that is birthed from the Holy Spirit. So it's not going to be in your own strength. And I think that's what we have to remember. Becoming more like God was never our doing to begin with. It's the Holy Spirit in us. Our job is to learn God more and more each day. And the more we do that, the more we're going to become like him. The more we're going to have more love to give to ourselves and then to others. And the more we're going to be putting on this new nature and letting go of any part of our sinful nature. And I think that making allowance for people's faults comes easier once you really do get to know God, because you start to understand that we're not fighting people. We're fighting principalities, strongholds, evil things. So it's the evil, it's the sin within people that causes pain. It's not who they are. Just like God set you free from whatever it may be. It could have been addiction. It could have been anger. It could have been jealousy. It could have been bitterness, unforgiveness. The same way God can set us free because we know who we used to be is the same way God can set anyone else free in our life who might be acting a fool. I think today's verse is a good reminder of what it looks like to put on our new nature, what it looks like to be obedient, what it looks like to check ourselves. Okay, where do I not have tender-hearted mercy? Where am I keeping track of the wrongs people do to me? Where am I not giving forgiveness where I should? Where am I not kind? Where do I need more humility? Where do I need to be more gentle and patient? And those are the areas of opportunity that we can rely on the Holy Spirit more and ask God to help change us and renew us and make us more like him. The more you become more intentional about your areas of weakness, the more his strength is going to shine in those places, and you will effortlessly bear that fruit. You will effortlessly have more kindness to give, have more gentleness, whatever it is that you're needing, you'll have more of it because it will be God's strength in your weakness. And then that just speaks to who God is and will increase your faith and make you look more like him at the same time. I kind of love how it says, you must clothe yourself with all of these things. You must clothe yourself with tender-hearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Every day we have to get dressed, right? We clothe ourselves with clothing. Every day we have to clothe ourselves with these things, because every day we have an opportunity to be angry and mad and judgmental and full of our sinful things. But we also have an opportunity to take those things off, to get rid of our sinful nature and to put on forgiveness, to put on mercy and kindness and humility. It's a choice, right? We have to choose to clothe ourselves with these things. And what that looks like is simply turning our eyes to Jesus and being like, Holy Spirit, give me more patience. I feel impatient. Holy Spirit, help me to rely on you more and to be aware of my need for you. I want more humility. And actively doing that will help you clothe yourself on a daily basis. Okay?